Hello everyone, in this video we will be solving the problem length of a last word in the Leetcode. As you can see that it's one of the easiest problems in Leetcode. I will be implementing the solution in Python, so it will be beginner friendly for you. So to understand the question, given a string S consisting of words and spaces, return the length of the last word in the string. The condition is a word is a maximal substring consisting of non-space characters only. So basically they will be giving us a string and we need to find the length of the last word in it. If we see the examples given here, the first example, the given input is hello world, and in here the last word is world, and its length is 5. And if we see the second example or the test case, it is kind of tricky. For us as humans, we can easily find that the moon is the last word here and its length is 4, but programmatically it is somewhat tricky, and you will understand when we implement the solution. And the third test case is somewhat similar to the first one. So let's get into the coding. Before coding the actual solution here, let me walk you through the solution step by step. Basically it's Jupyter Notebook. It's like an online Python compiler where you can write code and run it inside the shell. Let's start with the first word, hello world. If you are new to Python, here S is the variable name and hello world is the value assigned to it, and its data type is of string. And as we see the problem, we are of course interested in the length of the last word. First, let us see how we can find the length. You can use for loop and counter to find the length of the string, but as it's Python, there's always a built-in function for most of the cases. So there's a function called len, which returns the length of a string. Basically len is a function here and I am passing the string s to it. So let me store the value returned by this function inside to a variable called length, so we will be able to print and see its output. As you can see here that the length function has returned level, which is the length of the string. If we manually count through it, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11, the level characters. And one thing that you need to note here is that all the programming languages consider the space as a character, but we humans tend to count only the letters, right? But the programming languages consider the space as a character. That's why we are getting a count of level. So the next thing we are interested is in the words. We aren't interested in the length of the entire string, that is level. We are interested in length of only the last word. So for that we need to find a way to split this string into words. If you think of it programmatically, basically a string is split into words based on the spaces, right? So using that logic, you can loop through this string character by character, and as soon as you encounter a space, you can conclude that it's an word. Instead of coding the entire thing, there's also a function for that in Python called split. This split function is specific to the string. So instead of passing the string as a parameter or the argument, we will be applying that to the string itself. So the way we should be using here is that s dot split, and inside this we will be passing in the delimiter is that based on which we will be splitting this string into separate words or something. So in this case we are splitting the string based on the spaces, right? So we will be passing the space as a parameter to it, and let me assign this to a variable called words, so we will be able to print the output. As you can see that the split function split the string into separate parts or elements based on the occurrence of the space. One thing that you should note here is that as we are specifying the space as a delimiter, the space won't be included in any of the elements that is output by the split function. It seems straightforward for this example, but if we try to do the same for the second test case, we can see the problem that I was referring to earlier. So let me just replace this into the second test case, and now the length is 27, which includes the spaces. And now if I try to split this into words, you can see here that there are too many of empty strings present in this. It's because there are more than one spaces here, right? What the split function basically does is that it splits the string based on a single space. So at times when there are two spaces, it will be creating an empty string here. Let me demonstrate it here for you. For example, let me print hello world dot split based on the spaces. So instead of applying the split function onto a string variable, you can directly apply the function onto a string itself instead of having it inside a variable. It should also work. So in here we are getting hello world as per the first test case, but when we have an extra space here like hello space world, if we try to rerun it, you can see here that there's an empty string, because after splitting here there's an extra space here that is considered as an empty string here. That's the problem when there are multiple spaces in the string. So we need to find a way to overcome that. Let me remove this, and we are having the string stored inside the variable called s, right? So in order to remove the extra spaces, there's a function called strip which is used to remove the extra spaces. So let us try that. As you can see that it has removed the extra spaces at the start and the end, right? So we are interested only in removing the last spaces because we are getting the extra empty strings at the end. But one thing to note with the strip function is it will be removing the spaces only at the beginning and at the end of a string. It doesn't remove the spaces in between the string. But for now it could work because we aren't interested in the part inside in here. We are only interested in the last word here. So it's enough to remove the trailing or the ending spaces. So let me delete these things and let me create a new variable called without ending spaces. It's just for understanding. You don't need to create a long variable name like this. S dot split of I will be passing in the space as a parameter, and if I try to print it, I will be as you can see here that the ending spaces are removed. So let me now split this string that doesn't have any spaces at the end using the same space and assigning it to the variable called words as before and print the same. As you can see here that as we had removed the spaces at the front at the end, we aren't having any empty strings at the end like before. There are some empty strings in the between, but we don't need to bother about that, right? Because we got the last element of the list to be an word. That is what we are interested in here. Actually we had removed the spaces at the last because they had mentioned the condition like consisting of non-space character. The last word shouldn't contain any kind of spaces, and from here it's a straightforward process. In order to get the last word, we can use the slicing operator -1. Basically the -1 means the last word in here, and if we try to print the last word, we will be getting the home, right? So instead of printing the last word, we are only interested in its length, right? So let us print the length of the last word. I had forgot an ending thing. So as you can see here that as per the test case, we are getting an output of 4. So to summarize, basically we are removing the ending and the starting spaces from the given string, and after removing the spaces, we are splitting that uh, string without ending spaces into separate words, and among those words we are interested only in the last word. So using slicing operator, we are accessing the last element of a list using -1, and if we print that, we will be getting the last word of a string, and as I said, we are using the length function to find its length. So let us implement the solution in here. The first thing is to remove the starting as well as the ending spaces. We are interested only at the ending spaces, but for now let us remove the spaces from both the ends. For simplicity, I am reassigning that into the same variable dot strip of s, and after that I need to be splitting them into spaces based on the split function, which will be taking in space as a parameter, and after that the last word is slicing into the last element, and finally we will be returning the length of that last word. So as you can see here that the test case has passed, and even if you submit here, you will be having the solution